Hello and welcome to another episode of the BorderlineDad podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. If you don't know, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and depression. I have two kids, one with autism, one with dyspraxia. In starting this whole podcast journey, my initial goal was to share my experiences, my stories, my thoughts and feelings on things, and make other people feel not so alone. I know what it's like to feel absolutely, completely, utterly alone and misunderstood, and like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and I never want any other person ever to feel that way. So my goal is to do the best that I can to make that happen, to make people feel not so alone. Eventually, after a few months, I moved into other areas of mental health. I talk about self-care, I talk about triggers, I talk about a lot of different things, talk about various disorders. Now, I want mental health to be taken as seriously as a black eye, as serious as a broken bone, a burst appendix, something like that. I also want to erase the stigma around asking for help, reaching out to a friend or a family member or a professional. I want to thank you all for being here today. Whether it's your first time or your 1,000,000th time, I really do appreciate you being here. It means more to me than I could ever accurately express. I hope you enjoy the episode. And again, thank you for being here. A quick warning before we continue. This episode is going to be very triggering. So it talks about suicide. And I just wanted to give that warning before I continued. My first suicidal thought was in the 6th grade. I was 11. It was around 2003. I was at my dad and stepmom's house. I went into the kitchen in the middle of the night. I took a good-sized knife out of the drawer. I held it against my stomach and wondered what would happen if I just shoved it in. If I just went to town on my stomach with that knife, would the pain stop? Would I finally be free from this hell? I stood there and I thought for a few minutes, and in the end, obviously, I decided not to. I decided not to do it for several reasons. I couldn't let the bullies win. I figured by continuing to live, it would just piss them off, and for some reason, that made me smile a bit. My mother had done nothing wrong, and I figured it wouldn't be fair to her. Very few reasons kept me from ending it all that day, but I'm glad I didn't. Nothing improved, of course, after that, but then again, why would it? No one had known what had happened the night before, how close I had came to ending it all. And even if they did, it would only make things worse. I'd be sent to a mental institution. They would force therapy on me. And that is one thing I hated, above all else. Being forced to do anything. It didn't matter, what it was entailing, what it had to do with. I could not stand the thought of being forced to do anything. Of course, in life, we're forced to do things that we don't want to do every day. I had contemplated suicide many, many times after that. But my last suicidal thought, however, was about a year ago, which for me is incredible. That's good news, I really haven't had a thought like that in forever. I don't believe suicide is selfish. I don't believe it's cowardly or just an easy way out. For someone to commit suicide, at least in my own opinion, they would have to really, really have thought about it for some time, as I did. I want to stress that really this is only my opinion. It doesn't reflect every single case. It's just what I believe in. There's only one time out of all those contemplations that I had planned it. I'll never forget that. As well as maybe in another blog, I'll go over into why I didn't do it then. May 9th, 2009 was the day I was going to end my life. I was done contemplating. I had finally had enough. The only girl I'd ever truly fell in love with had been rejecting me for about 3 straight years. I was persistent, but I really loved her. she was going to go to prom, she's going to go to prom with some other guy that it wasn't going to be me, and once she went to prom, she was a year older than me too. This is my junior year of high school, so she was going to graduate, she was going to move on, and that'd be it. Home life had become unbearable. The school/bus wasn't much better. May 9th was a Saturday, For some reason, I didn't want to do it during the week. I was going to go out. It was going to be on my own terms. On May 8th, 2009, I had something happen that stopped me from doing it the next day, and something very positive. Again, I'll probably go into that in another episode. It seems like all the time on the news, I hear about kids taking their own lives, younger and younger all the time. Then, of course, the occasional video surfaces of the aftermath of a kid getting bullied. A bunch of celebrities come out of nowhere and offer to meet them, hang out with them. They send the kid a bunch of merch, shout-outs on social media. That kid will then appear on some talk shows, and then poof, back into nothingness they go. Bullying continues. Life goes on for those who survive it. I used to get bullied on the way out of anti-bullying rallies at school. I've been bullied my entire life, and yet nobody ever seemed to give a shit about me. It's not about me, though, however. It's about how we can make real changes to discourage that kind of behavior and how to destigmatize asking for help. Not to be seen as a sign of weakness or failure, asking for help should be as normalized as getting gas at a gas station. This is going to be the shortest blog/podcast ever because I just don't have much more to say on the topic. I realize that many people have been through a lot worse hell than I have, but that does not take away the fact that I've been on the edge. I've contemplated it more times than I can count. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health and may have had suicidal thoughts, or if you suspect someone you know may have these thoughts, please reach out. If you're too afraid to reach out to one of these resources, I want you to also feel free to send me an email. BorderlineDad@yahoo.com. I am in no means a professional by any stretch of the imagination, and you should always contact one first. But just please know that I'm always here. I will always listen without judgment, and what you send me will always be 100% confidential. The suicide hotline for the United States is 1-800-273-8255. If you go to www.suicide.org/international-suicide-hotlines.html, you will be able to find suicide hotlines and resources for wherever you are in the world, regardless of country or social status or anything like that. Those resources will be there. There is also the website suicidepreventionlifeline.org. You can email them. Like I said, I'm always going to be here for you. And I know this is a short one, but that's okay. They're not all going to be 20, 30 minutes long. Some of them will be quite short. And if you want to follow me, you can be listening for the next podcast to come out. You can also follow my blog at BorderlineDad.wordpress.com. I'm going to be doing a daily blog, and with each blog, I will also be coming on here and making a podcast. I want to thank you all again for taking the time to listen. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And always with love, Borderline Dad.